Our bone is formed in the fetal stage and begins as cartilage, which then grows and forms the complex structure of tissues making up our bones. Hard bone, spongy bone, marrow, veins, and arteries. When we are born, we can have over 270 bones, which later fuse together by around the age of 4 to form the larger bones of our bodies, such as the skull, scapula, and hip bones, which leaves us with 206 bones for adult life. During this time, our bone density increases. Bone density peaks at around mid-20s to early 30s for both males and females. Peak bone density is reached because a higher amount of bone is produced than broken down in the continual process called remodeling. Every 8 to 10 years, each bone in our body is remodeled in this cycle to ensure the constant production and formation of healthy new bone. A good supply of calcium, vitamin D, and other minerals and hormones are essential, in addition to regular physical activity such as weight-bearing exercise and resistance training, which strengthens our bones as well as our muscles. As men age and after menopause for women, the breakdown of bone during remodeling is greater than the formation of new bone, which causes a decline in bone density. This mainly occurs because the levels of hormones produced by our bodies declines. Hormones act as a regulator in the production of new bone, which is why postmenopausal women have a higher level of bone loss. If we lose too much bone and our bone density declines to a certain level, this may be diagnosed as osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is classified as a condition that occurs when there is a high loss of bone mineral density. This reduces bone strength, making it easier to fracture fragile bones. Fractures occurring in the hip, the wrist, and the spine are the most common. However, there are steps you can take to minimise your risk of developing osteoporosis and related fractures. Osteoporosis costs Australia $1.9 billion directly per year, and approximately $7.4 billion per year in related costs. Approximately 2.2 million Australians are affected by osteoporosis. Based on current Australian statistics, half of all women and a third of all men over the age of 60 will sustain an osteoporotic fracture. Each year, approximately 20,000 osteoporotic hip fractures occur in Australia, which is increasing by 40% each decade. The most common fractures occur in the hip, the wrist, and the spine. Fractures of the spine are typically compression fractures, which occur with spinal vertebrae collapsing into themselves. This can cause pain and, if not treated properly, may cause a curved back commonly known as a dowager's hump, often seen in people with severe osteoporosis. Osteoporosis occurs when we lose bone mineral density, causing our bones to become fragile and brittle.
10 years ago, I had a certain bone density, which is graft from the clinic, and when I broke my hip, I had lost quite a bit of that bone density. It came as an awful shock when I broke my hip and realised it was through osteoporosis.
It may be caused by deficiencies in our diet, lack of physical activity, lifestyle factors such as smoking and alcohol, certain medical conditions, some medications, hormone imbalances, or hereditary factors.
Well, initially it had a devastating impact because I felt that my life as I used to live it, and that was an active life. I loved swimming and bushwalking and going out. I really felt that I'd lost all those activities because I'd seen other friends break their hip and they were virtually a cripple.
Often, if our parents had osteoporosis, we will be at a greater risk of contracting the condition. When bone is remodelled and a person has osteoporosis, more bone is broken down than new bone being formed.
It's virtually the bone becomes filled with, I'm told, lots of little holes, and as you lose this density, you get more holes until the bone is very fragile.
There are two types of cells responsible for the replenishing bone cycle of remodelling. They are osteoclasts, which dissolve old bone, and osteoblasts, which build up new layers of bone and replace it. During osteoporosis, the osteoclasts are more active than the osteoblasts because there are not enough of our hormones, estrogen and testosterone, to regulate the process. Thus, bone resorption is greater. If your doctor suspects you may have osteoporosis, they may advise you to take a bone density scan.
Well, the DEXA X-ray takes into account the spine and both sides of the hips, so dual femur. This is the spine and the hips. This is the right and this is the left hip, and it gives both bone densities for each side of the hip.
It is a simple test.
Process, it's about 45 seconds for the spine and about the same to do both hips. It's only a few minutes to do.
That measures the bone density at the sites most at risk of an osteoporotic fracture, such as the hip and/or the spine. Calcium, vitamin D and other minerals are very important for strong, healthy bones. Calcium is the mineral that helps to make our bones strong and forms part of the structure of the bones themselves. This is why a diet rich in calcium is essential. It is important to recognise foods that contain greater levels of calcium. Foods such as dairy products, tinned salmon or sardines, eggs and almonds contain calcium. If you do not get enough calcium from your diet, you may require a calcium supplement. Your doctor or pharmacist can advise you on the best supplement for your needs. We only need a small amount of sunshine every day to get enough vitamin D in our bodies. Sunlight before 10 a.m. or after 2 p.m. 4 to 6 times a week for 6 to 8 minutes at a time is sufficient. The liver and kidneys convert the vitamin D produced by the skin into calcitrol, a form that can be used by the intestines to aid the absorption of calcium and phosphorus we need for bone strength. People who are vitamin D deficient may require supplements which can be determined by your doctor. Exercise strengthens our bones as it does our muscles. Weight-bearing and resistance exercise are the best forms to build up bone strength and reduces bone loss later in life. Examples of weight-bearing exercise, that is, exercises done on your feet, including walking, running, stair climbing. Examples of resistance-based exercise include weight training, using weights with your arms or your legs, lifting and pressing weights. Exercise not only increases muscle and bone strength, but also improves balance and agility, lowering fall risk, decreasing the chance of sustaining an osteoporotic fracture. It should be an important consideration whether you want to prevent osteoporosis or you need to treat it. If you do have osteoporosis, it is imperative to consult your physician before beginning an exercise program, so they can assess your fitness level and advise you on the best exercises for your health. There are many treatments available for osteoporosis. Different treatments are suitable for different people, so your doctor will determine the best treatments for you.